So in this video we will talk about Nexus9kv EVPN and what the actual configuration looks like. In the previous videos I did talk about arista and put the configs up and VIOS. So we got these two with EVPN. This one is for Cisco Nexus 9K. So once you have the 9kV universal instance, you can put that in this format back to back. Your IP cloud is going to be your link here. In my case, I think I have 1.0.0.1 on this interface, 1.0.0.2 on this interface, 2 loopbacks, and then I have BGP configured, BGP AS1, so it's an IBGP between the 2 loopbacks. And then I have on this port VLAN 900, VLAN 900 with IP address 192.168.0.10 here, 192.168.0.11 here, /24s. And the interface VLAN here is 192.168.0.1, and same with this guy, 0.1 /24. So when you configure the EVPN, you should have VIOS 1 and 2 ping each other on the same subnet, right? That's the whole idea of EVPN, is you're extending your subnet or VLAN over an IP cloud or IP network. So our IP network right now is a simple link, IP link, and I'm reaching the loopbacks with static routes. IP route for 2.2.2.2 is next hop, this guy, and IP route for 1.1.1 next hop is this guy, right? So I'll show you the configs for the Nexus, and let me show you the reachability between VIOS 1 and VIOS 2. Here's my VIOS 1, and here's my VIOS 2, and I can reach show interface. My local interface is 10. 192.168.0.11 is what I'm trying to reach. Who's this guy right here? So I can reach him on the same subnet, and I can reach the other VIOS as well, and I can ping the gateway as well, which is an Anycast gateway, right? If you remember what from previous videos, that Anycast gateways will have the same IP addresses. In our case, it's going to be VLAN 900, which is an Anycast VLAN because this is configured on VLAN 900. Now you have the setup, you got these loopbacks configured. Let's take a look at the Nexus configuration. The first one, I have a video up on how to bring it up. And here it is. If you look at the Cisco documentation for this, we'll just use this reference to see how to verify all of this. But if you look at the EVPN, BGP EVPN configuration, they've pretty much dumped everything. You don't need multicast, right? That's the whole purpose, is that you're using BGP EVPN, so therefore you don't need multicast. You either use multicast or you use BGP VPN for your broadcast configuration, right? I'm not using this topology. My topology is pretty simple between the two VTEPs, and they're connected together. But if you look at this configuration, they're basically, it's very complicated. Obviously, you got to have the setup to follow it up. But they're using multicast, which you don't need to, right? So we'll just use their document to look at the verification commands. So the first command is show NVE. And if you go through their show VXLAN, is will tell you the VXLANs or VLANs that are mapped to the VN segment. And then the other command is to see if it's coming up or not, is show NVE peers. Show NVE peers, and you can see it's up. Show MAC address table will show you the MAC address that are dynamically learned over the VXLAN. Cisco calls an interface VXLAN as NVE. This is how it looks like. Don't forget to do this. This is the configuration for the NVE. This is how your BGP looks like. From here to here, that's your BGP. It's going to be exactly the same, except for the fact with, let me just put this show run BGP side by side. Your neighbors, I'm neighboring with 1, he's neighboring with 2, and here's how the config looks like for the VLANs and the VNI segments. Okay, let's look at the show VX BGP EVPN L2 EVPN. Here it is. You see all the prefixes, type 2s and type 5s coming through. You can do summary to see that your state is up and you're exchanging 2 prefixes. And you can go through this documentation to look at the different, but the configuration is pretty straightforward. It's a little cumbersome. You need to enable these features, with the exception of the first 2. You got to put these in. And then once you're done with that, you're going to create your VLAN 102, which is an L3. You have to do that. It's an L3 VXLAN. This is your L2 that you're extending. So assigning segment IDs, and then creating a VRF since it's an L3 VXLAN. This is pretty straightforward stuff, different from Arista's configuration. Every vendor has their own, but here's your Anycast VLAN 900. You gotta assign, don't forget to assign the MAC addresses, because otherwise your virtual 9000 will not work. So I just make sure that you do that. And you also need to assign another MAC address somewhere. because that way show run interface E11. It's an IP address, so if you look at this guy, show run interface E11, which is your IP link. I did a MAC address here as well. So you make sure you change them, because when you bring up these two instances, they'll have the same MAC address. Keep an eye on that. So change one side with the MAC address so that you're pinging first. So when you bring up this setup here, you make sure that when this port is configured as an L3 port, they'll come up with the same MAC address and you won't be able to ping. So you change the MAC address of either one of them and you should be good. And do the same with the interface VLAN as well, which I just showed you. Right? Do the same with interface VLAN. So this is, on this side, I've changed the MAC address for Ethernet 1.1 just to make it different. And on this side, I've changed the MAC address of interface VLAN just to make it different. Okay, so if you don't do that, your connectivity is not going to work. This is just this is only for the virtual instance. Obviously, if in the real world with the real switches, you don't have to do this. But to look at the configuration as a whole, here's the overall configuration. Config, put in all of this stuff. You need to put in this command, again, MAC address that you got to come up with. You need to put in a static route to the loopback or enable OSPF. And then VLAN 102, this is your L3 VLAN, VXLAN, so you got to put in a L3 VLAN. And then this is your L2 VLAN. Both will have the segment IDs. Since it's L3, you're going to put in a tenant. You don't have to, but you have this. In this case, it makes it simple. Put in a VNID, assign it a VNID, which is this guy, because this is the one that's L3. And then you go to your VLAN interface and assign the MAC address and put in. Create a interface VXLAN here. And remember, this is the member command to make sure that your interface VXLAN is encapsulating the L2 and L3 for north-south, and you need L3 VXLANs is north-south and L2 is east-west. Loopbacks, this is unnecessary, and here's your BGP. And here's your EVPN, which is separate than BGP. So that's basically it for the Nexus EVPN. If you can remember to put in the MAC addresses, I think you should be good with this config. Hope this helps.